Today we have Brandon and Darrell, co-founders of Tambor AI, an organization that helps businesses and other organizations tap into what people and their audiences feel, think, and need. We dived into themes such as empathy, courage, and compassion in an over-polarized world, how to show up more authentically as ourselves. Both of them coming from backgrounds of activism and politics, Darrell being a former CIA agent, what it means also to show up with more empathy and compassion in places where that is not really felt or it's really actually unheard of. I hope you enjoy this podcast episode. It was so incredible and filled with insight to really talk to both of them from our heart centered and really share with you what it means to show up with empathy and compassion. Thank you both so much for joining, and it's an honor to have you both here after meeting and hearing your mission and what you're about. And I wanted to start with, your mission of inspiring people to act on issues in the world and how that came to be, and who you are and your passion and your heart.
Oh, wow. Jump straight in. Let me think. So I guess background is I was a music manager for about 15 years, and at the same time working in criminal justice reform. And it's kind of like I would be like a rave until 3 a.m. and then in a prison at 9 a.m. And it was like two different lives that were somehow interwoven, but not really. And I just saw this like lack of interest from a lot of people in engaging in issues that directly impact them and don't even realize it. Mm-hmm. And it hit me that it was all about the story and how the story is being told, and how we're communicating. And so for the past, 10 years or so, in many different forms of iterations and companies and projects and things like that, it's always been around how do you reach people through the way that they want to be spoken to, and pull them into whatever you're talking about, whether it's a movement or a brand or a product or anything. A lot of what I've worked on has been, policy and issue-based things, but I think it applies to everything. People just want to be heard and be seen as individuals and be spoken to from that lens. And I think as a lot of leaders and organizations and brands and movements, we don't think that way. We think about speaking people the way we want to be spoken to, and don't consider who they are.
Wow. So your background is also in music too, which Darrell, you were sharing music and bringing people to be seen, to be heard, to share the message.
Yeah.
What would you say the heart plays? Like what role does the heart play in bringing forward this message in people?
Wow. So many. I think at the end of the day, like, we're all little kids that just want to be heard and seen and loved. And when we're misattuned, when people aren't like, when they're speaking to us but kind of speaking through us, and we don't see like that, feel like they actually see us, we're never going to be convinced of anything. And the quickest way of convincing somebody to believe in whatever you believe in is to make it seem like, or make it real that you see them.
That's beautiful. I often actually see the world that way. Yeah. That it's all of us in little kid forms, superheroes. Yeah. Superheroes.
Somebody I met recently used the word perception box. That we live in a box of our own perceptions, and that we see the world through that lens, and we're not actually all seeing the same world.
Yeah. Wow. It's potent. That's a philosophical concept.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, and Darrell, welcome also. You big heart. This guy. We were just walking and we ran into each other, and all I said is like, "You look like a big, like a good hugger."
A good hugger. I know, right? Listen, Manuela, in today's world, being a Southerner, we hug everybody, but I had to learn that not everybody wants to be hugged, and that in the workplace, it's not always acceptable. And then I just got to the point where I'm like, you know what? I have to be authentic to me. I'm just randomly go up and grab and start hugging women. But I think hugs are so powerful. In fact, I was at a venture capitalist office just yesterday, hearing a pitch, and they started off with a 5-second hug. The first guy who hugged me was the one who brought me in. He's like, "We're gonna hug for 5 seconds for a count of five," and it was just enough time to be like, feel really good without being uncomfortable. And then the CEO, who I had only met once before, also like 6'4", really tall guy. So we're kind of in this awkward hug, but it just felt so good to be able to just hold somebody just for a second and just it's the the endorphins that come from physical contact is a real thing.
What
And
DC worlds are you in?
I was so shocked. I know, I'm not kidding. I was so shocked when I went into this meeting, and both of the guys are lovely. I was actually at a tequila launch party at the guy's house 3 hours before, and he said,
"Oh, this is why the hugging." Okay, I get it.
No. The tequila drinking and the hugging were days apart. But anyway, I was there to help them launch a tequila, and then they said, "Well, we understand your background is in national security and defense, and we have this project, and we'd like you to take a look at it." And so I did, and then they brought me in to do the pitch and to meet me, and they started off with hugs, and I was like, "Okay, I like these guys already, just immediately." They're in it for money, just like everybody's in it to buy and sell a company, but they started off on the right foot.
Can you imagine if world politics started off with a
Absolutely.
10-minute hug?
Right.
Like, what would happen? It's like I'm meeting you as a human, not as a
Right. Oh, I think hugs are a huge thing that everyone, and quite frankly, hugging people that you would rather not hug.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get violent here, but it breaks down barriers. Another coaching tool that I use is looking into someone's eyes without any words or comments, and time it for 3 minutes. 3 minutes is an eternity when you're looking in the eyes of a stranger or someone who might not have your best interests at heart.
Right.
But by that minute and a half point, whatever you had going on in your head or in your brain about whatever that person was or who you thought they were, it kind of goes away and dissipates. It's really weird, and it's really fun to watch when you put people together that don't like each other or might have differences in the office. By the end of it, they all just realize that this is harder than it looks. Just staring without comment or looking away or breaking out laughing, but it relaxes people. And hugs don't have to be physical. Hugs can be, I'm hugging you with my eyes.
Energetically.
I'm looking at you and I'm recognizing who you are. And I want you to know that I see you. I'm not just glancing at you or glancing past you. So
Did you have that experience in your former CIA?
no one really associates the Central Intelligence Agency with kindness. So when my university reached out and asked me to be a part of their TEDx program, so once a year they bring in 3 alumni, 3 staff, and 3 students who are that cadre of speakers for that calendar year. And in April Fool's Day, 2022. In fact, when the date came in, I'm like, is this a joke? No, it's not a joke. It's the first Friday of the last Friday of the first Friday of the month. So it was real. And the TEDx was called Listen More, Speak Less, Lessons in Kindness from a CIA Operative. And long story short, but the story is about a guy who was on our high value target list, had a lot of American ally blood on his hands, and it took us a long time to capture him. And when we had him, everybody was cheering and everybody was happy because he was responsible for their suicide bomber network. Long story short, he was not the devil that I was anticipating. And through certain measures of treating him with respect, speaking to him without judgment, and talking to him about the things that he cared about, Brandon was talking about turning the mirror and seeing things from the perspective of the person who you're, on the other side of the fence with. Because if you're only looking at it through your own lens, then you are not helpful to, building bridges between your side and that side. Only till you can feel what that person has gone through. Even if you don't agree with it, everyone understands that kindness is something that everyone needs and everyone appreciates and everyone should be putting out in practicing in the world. Just the thought of being kind to people that they don't like is what they can't get past. And that's, for me, that's the dichotomy of, well, kindness means kindness doesn't put parameters on who you should be kind to. Kindness is for everyone, even those who don't deserve it. And from my perspective, especially those who don't deserve it.
That's huge. That's enough to break barriers.
Absolutely.
Around the world. Brandon, would you have an example of that for yourself in your life? Like a time that you've been in a space where you have had to look at a person that perhaps you had a long history, whether it was ancestral history of maybe this person, or a judgment towards the person, and then you've broken it down with kindness.
Well, I mean, shit, like the last 8 months, I've had to experience this so much. You know, if somebody finds out I'm Jewish, you know, some of the first conversations are, you know, my thoughts on, you know, Israel Palestine, and we don't know we need to go into that on this podcast, but I think I've been misjudged and mislabeled and misrepresented, and the other person has too. And there's this really interesting. I mean, so I'll even say, like, there was a dear friend of mine who is like a Muslim thought leader activist, and right after October 7th, we kind of got into it and went head to head. And after sitting with each other and having a bunch of conversations, asking each other very tough questions and about our beliefs and things like that, we found a lot of common ground. We agreed on probably 99% of things, and disagreed on very little. And the things we disagreed on, we could get past. And some things we even disagreed on that we were able to convince each other of, you know, other things. And in that, we've now moved forward and we've started doing public speaking on the intersections of Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. And that, but I would never, like, I don't think I ever looked into her eyes and thought that there was like somebody that wanted me to be hurt or anything like that.
There's the small walls, right? Like just the preconception, perhaps, that are placed on us from family, culture, like.
Well, 100%. She brought up this episode of Hidden Brain that talks about this, about how, like, if we've been I'm gonna blank on the stats now what it is, but it's basically the way our mind works. When we think somebody else doesn't like them, we're way more likely to then move into the justification of not liking them and wanting them dead or wanting that. So it's just like it's such an easy, like, snowball back and forth where, like, neither one of you actually holds that feeling, but from a defensive place, you've winded up hating each other and wanting each other dead, but out of protection for yourself versus out of actual hate for the other.
And again, I think this goes like millennia ago. That's what we were taught, right? So you're saying that we actually should approach somebody and first think of all the things that we were told about that culture, that gender, and then release all the judgment and then approach the person with
and you do have to protect yourself, right? And we live in a society where people have been conditioned, and so I would never tell anybody to drop all your guards. You know, have your common sense about you. You know, make sure you're entering into those open heart spaces with somebody that can be open hearted too. Because there's some people that need a bigger journey to get there. I think we all have the capacity for it, but there are some people that, you know, it'd be hard to just come bare chested to and not get hurt. And I'm sure Darrell has some experience with that, but yeah, so I think it's like everybody has the capacity to, but I think something I've learned is people do need to earn trust and earn vulnerability and earn those spaces, and you kind of walk into it.
We go back to looking at everybody as a child and seeing, like, the wounds that they're carrying as well, probably, and just feeling most of what we are doing is coming probably from that place of whatever harm we had.
The idiom that popped in my head is, we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. Meaning we bring all of our own preconceived fears and notions and ideas and beliefs about something, whether you believe them wholeheartedly or not, they're still kind of ingrained in you since you were a child. So a part of the TEDx was designed to help people understand that instead of looking at our differences as a way to divide us, but looking at our differences as a way to connect us. For me, I'm a third culture kid. I grew up in the heel of the boot, Italy, Okinawa, Japan, before moving to Texas when I was 9 years old. So 7 of my first 9 years on the planet was in other cultures and hearing other languages and smells and sights and sounds and flavors and all those things. And for me, when people say they don't see color, I'm like, well, you're ruining it. It's the beauty of the difference of our hues and our tones and our sizes and our everything about it. For me, that's fascinating. Not a way to, oh man, they're a little scary to me. And trust me, I've been in some very scary situations that including with the Emir. The Emir had blood on his hands, but so did the CIA and the United States government. So we weren't un. I mean, we had our own share of some of the responsibilities, but no one had ever asked him why he was doing what he did. And when he gave me his answer, it was I couldn't argue with him. It was one of those things like, yeah, if I was in his shoes, I probably would have done the same thing out of frustration. Of course, I would have limited to, or I hoped that I would limit it to not using children as the method of attacking people as child suicide bombers. But I understood why he was doing what he was doing and where he was, and he became less of this boogeyman than a guy who was a father who wanted his daughters to grow up in a world that was better than the world that he grew up in and that his wife grew up in. And how do you argue with that? How do you tell someone that that's not important for a guy, whether he's Al Qaeda or the Taliban or even ISIS or Hamas? Everybody has dreams for their kids or for their futures on how they want the world to unfold. And not all of them are dead set against killing whoever's on the other side or, opposed to whatever it is that they're fighting for. So stop looking at our differences and differences in gender, all of them. And there's more than she, he. I think the Native Americans say there's six,
Yeah.
that there's six different accepted kind of beings in their world, and what we would kind of see as transgender or same sex are codified in some of the nations. Not sure which ones. Most of the ones in the Southwest in the United States. It might go over into Canada and such, but embrace our differences.
Yeah.
I think you skipped
Ask
over.
questions
You skipped
about
over actually telling the story of the Emir.
so
What's the difference?
well, I don't
Yeah.
listen. Anybody listening to my voice can go on YouTube and find it.
Yeah.
But the Emir was someone that took 8 months for us to capture him. 4 separate raids, 3 failures until we finally got him. The third raid, where we missed him, we actually hit pay dirt because we picked up his father-in-law, his brother-in-law, and one of the major Taliban battlefield commanders. Anyway, you can imagine that the spouse, whose father was in custody, was none too happy with her husband, who had escaped being caught. And I used the universal, I can fix your problems at home. I can get you out of the doghouse, to get him to cooperate and to work with us. As soon as he found out that I was going to fix his home problems by getting his father-in-law released from custody, he decided he was going to work with us and he was going to talk to us.
Oh, wow.
But if you could have listened to the tapes between the phone calls between husband and wife over the 4 to 6 weeks when we were still chasing him, but still had his in-laws in custody. And you don't have to speak Pashto or Dari to understand that on one side of the phone there was dead silence and this very large, very scary terrorist listening to his wife, who is unhinged, is the only way I could describe the her voice, and probably what was yes dear or no dear responses to almost everything that she said. And and then once I figured out that I could use that as a way to get him to cooperate with us, he was more than happy to be in custody and not being subjected to to his wife's wrath. But we ended up letting her father-in-law go. He ended up talking to us, and we saved a lot of lives together, just because we connected on issues beyond the global war on terrorism. We talked about art and history and culture and what it was like to raise kids in environments where, where it was constantly at war. It's tough.
You met as humans. You met
As humans, absolutely.
I had a question for you.
Mhm.
You've seen probably more than most people have,
Mhm.
and you have. I just notice you, and you keep such an open heart. Like it's like how throughout your history and life of.
I get that question a lot. My parents were very loving and open people who had huge expectations on how you acted in the world, how you carried yourself in the world, how you treated other people, particularly. And my treatment of him was no, I my mom used to say, treat the person the same way, whether they own the building or whether they're cleaning the building. It doesn't matter. If you treat them all with the same level of respect, people will see that and people will recognize that you're true and authentic and fair and all those other things that words that we like to throw out there. But I couldn't be any other way to him.
Mm.
He was one of probably 6 or 7 dozen people that we captured and that I debriefed. And trust me, all of them were not as compliant as he was, but I was kind to all of them.
Mm.
Never raised my voice, never made a threat. And eventually every single one of them talked to me. Not at, not with the same depth and breadth of collaboration as the Amir did, but you'd be surprised that someone that you think holds a position because you've seen them on the news or you've heard something about them through the grapevine, and then realizing that no, that's not really what I believe. That's not what I believe at all. Here's what I here's what I believe. So giving people the opportunity to share their hearts, and it starts with trust.
Mm.
There was no level of trust between me and this guy until I was able to have him speak to his wife, have her confirm that her father had been released, and now he knew that I kept my word, so he kept his word. So just little baby steps, so to speak. But by time the 3 months that I remained there in theater, and by the time I left, I could ask him anything and talk to him about anything.
And we go back to your background of third. I am also a third culture kid, so I understand. And for me, it's also not noticing or seeing the differences, but feeling part of it all, right? Like
Right.
I have your heart, your soul. Like we're all in some
Yes.
way connected.
So
Yeah.
when every time I meet an Italian or anybody who lived in the countries that's originally from the countries in which I lived, I'm like, ah, I'm part Nigerian. They're like, no, you're not. I'm like, I claim it because I lived there for a while, or all the other countries that I am, because I do. I love the
Mm.
Senegalese. I love being in Nigeria.
You speak
Nigerians are tough people.
Japanese.
I grew up speaking
You
Japanese,
okay.
but by time I was old enough to realize that I should have kept it up, it was too late.
Okay.
I'm a French speaker,
You're
so
French.
I lived and worked in 4 francophone speaking countries, also 4 Muslim majority countries. So I'm Jewish by choice and black by the grace of God. So I was raised Baptist in the South,
Mm.
observed Ramadan in 4 countries in which there was a Muslim majority: Niger, Senegal, Morocco, and Pakistan. And and that was because there's more than 1 billion people who observe this, this huge holiday, and I needed to know what culturally they were experiencing, historically what they were experiencing. It was different in the Maghreb than it was in Pakistan. It's different in West Africa, but all of them shared a same Quranic kind of perspective to it. So I learned a lot about who I was, and then eventually ended a 35-year journey from, the University of Georgia campus to the American Jewish University campus here
Mm.
8 years ago when I converted through their
Wow.
introduction to Judaism program at AJU. So
Kabbalah, or
hmm?
did you do study any Kabbalah?
I did learn most of the Hebrew prayers, but
Beautiful.
trust me, but when you didn't grow up in, saying the prayers a certain way, or washing your hands 3 times before all the things that any Jew who grew up in a Jewish home would just automatically know. I'm still learning all that stuff. And
I'll break that myth. I would say 90% of Jews that grew up in a Jewish home do not know to wash their hands 3 times before they eat. So,
Well, I was actually spoke at my synagogue just 2 weeks ago, update on the Israeli Hamas thing, and the rabbi let me say the prayer and break the challah bread, and I'm like, oh shit. Literally standing in front of all the congregants and the rabbi, I'm like, okay, yep. Just kind of had to mentally walk through all the things that I was supposed to do. For me, culture is everything. And I love when people embrace and love their culture. This whole thing about cultural appropriation, that to me is someone honoring what someone what someone did. Blackface, that's a whole different thing. That's got vaudevillian and some very racist ties to it. So I'm not including blackface in that. But most people say, oh, you're appropriating because there's a white guy wearing dreadlocks. Like, what, he's got hair? It's about the hair. It's not about
I love that.
Whatever. And yes, you've seen people who probably should never have gotten dreadlocks or braids or beads or whatever. But kind of they're honoring the space in which they're moving. They're helping the local economy and stop bringing people down.
It's all about perception, right?
It is about perception.
It's all about positive perception.
My daughter is my Jiminy Cricket. If you all readers out there or listeners don't know who Jiminy Cricket is, he was the Pinocchio's conscience. I remember being in a restaurant with my daughter, and there was this kid taking pictures of all the food. I'm like, why is everybody wanting to take pictures of their food? And she's like, Papa, how does her taking pictures of her food impact you?
Mic drop.
She's right. It doesn't. It made that person feel good at that time and share with whatever community she was sharing with. And it has nothing to do with me at the next table. Why am I making judgments about this kid who's clearly, doing what she wants to do? And that's every time I have that initial thought of why is it? I'm like, how's it impacting you? Is it true? Is it nice? And TKN, is it true? Is it nice? I'm speaking about when people share things with other people without fact checking. And as a minimum, when you get something like, is it true? Yes or no? Is it nice? Probably not. And should you share it? The answer is probably no. So going through your mental checklist. I believe this. I'm just going to share it immediately. And people come back to me like, yo, D, that's been debunked. I'm like, I don't have time to do research on every click and like or relaying something on to someone, but you should, because there are a lot of bad players out there who literally know how to pull the heartstrings. They're smart people. We think these hackers are not smart people. Trust me, they're smarter than most businesses and smarter than most individuals. And they're coming after folks. They're coming after us through our heartstrings. Big
That's
time.
True. That's true. Separation, individualization. Brandon, you have experience in prisons as well. Is that right? You have a lot of work at 10 years of your life?
That was. I mean, I'm still engaged here and there. Just less time spent there. But that would have. My mom started an organization in 2008. Okay. So that was my introduction.
Okay, wow, beautiful. So it's in the family.
Yeah, and she still does that full time. I spent a few years kind of very deep in that world. And then it really hit me that I wanted to be in more storytelling, policy change, kind of more upstream type issues based things. So I haven't been inside of a prison in a while, but it's a very beautiful movement space.
But you grew up in
a lot of really good people. I mean, 2008, so I was in college already. But but no, wow. It's like talk about kindness and empathy inside of prisons is wild. Like it's not something you ever experience, you think about, or when you're told, what it is like and who's there. But it's some of the most kind, most heartfelt, warmest people in the world. My mom will often when I don't know if she doesn't teach much anymore, because she's now at a different phase in her organization. But when she was doing the teaching, she would sometimes be in a room by herself with like 150 men, some lifers, some there for a long time, and she never felt safer.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah, never, like, and I would ask her like, you good? She had like a little button if something went wrong, but she was very protected. And I would go with her a few times to her sessions, and I could see that like a lot of the guys there would treat her like they were like she was their mother,
Mhm.
and cared like that.
Isn't that
Yep.
wow?
So yeah, it's really cool.
There's a thread here.
So my degree is in psychology, and I probably took enough criminal justice courses at the University of Georgia to have what would account to a minor today. So I did ride-alongs with police at my university in Atlanta. As a consular officer for the State Department, as my cover is CIA. I've been to visit Americans in prisons in Nigeria, Uganda, Morocco. I want to say Switzerland, but Switzerland I'm not sure about. But anyway, I've been in prisons outside of the United States. I've never been in a prison or jail in the United States as someone who was there to visit, or someone who someone who was there against their will. But I wanted to get out and change the prison system, and this is 1982 to 86 thinking. 18 to 22-year-old Darrell, that it's a crime that anyone could go to jail illiterate and come out illiterate.
Mm.
Um, if there are nonviolent criminals who wasted away their junior high and their high school years doing what kids at that age do, which is act out and do stupid shit, if you gave them a chance today to say, you know what, you're going to walk out of here being able to read. You're going to be able to walk out of here to be able to pick up a newspaper and find, I don't think they have jobs in newspapers anymore, but can you imagine if you've ever been in a foreign country where you didn't speak that language or read the written one, and you pick up a newspaper and realize you have no idea what anything is being said? That's what it feels like to someone who never learned how to read. That's what it feels like to someone who never had an opportunity to make up for their wayward, teenage years. And if you could cut someone's sentence in half or a third by, okay, you're nonviolent, you've been stealing cars, you've been breaking into people, whatever it is, you've never harmed another human being in your life, you're not that type of person, make sure they're educated. And educated doesn't mean you have to have degrees. Educated means you can operate in the world in which you live and read what to do and what not to do and help others. That's that's what I wanted to do in terms of changing the penal system. Most people that are in jail, and I've had family members who've been to jail. Had a lot of friends who been to jail, and all of them to a person were just as kind or nice as when I knew them before they went to jail. Made knucklehead decisions, um, but all in all, they were just good people in circumstances way beyond their control, or they paid for indiscretions and paid their dues, and now they're going to be judged for the eternity of their beings for something that they already paid for. That's where I have a problem. When
Right.
someone has paid their dues to society, then freaking let them go. Don't
Mhm.
continue to hold them under this yoke or this fear of, oh my God, once a criminal, always a criminal. That's just not true.
Can we talk about forgiveness in that case? For people that have paid their dues. My work had also taken me to former child soldiers who now are, in Colombia, don't
Mhm.
have a way to come back into society.
Right.
And so a lot of my work is to help them, look in the eyes
Right.
and forgive. What would forgiveness look like in this
I
case?
think in terms of child soldiers, I'm going to continue with that theme. When I was in Uganda, um, the Lord's Resistance Army was one of the internal terrorist groups inside of Uganda. They didn't pose a threat to the United States. They didn't pose a threat to any of the neighbors. They were wholly anti Ugandan government internal rebellion. So they weren't a target of the CIA, but the government came to us and said, "Hey, can you help us with training? We need to try and get our arms around this problem." What the Ugandan People's Defense Forces, their army, the UPDF, did was these child soldiers from the LRA, they integrated them into their own army as a way of giving them a job, learning how the enemy thought and moved and operated, but also for society to look at them as victims, which they were. Child soldiers are absolutely victims through and through. They were forced to do things because their family was a part of it or because their village got raided. And the Ugandans did a really beautiful job of integrating former child soldiers who had done horrendous things to a lot of people and bringing them back into kind of culturally being accepted by the people who they did wrong on the on the way out. So there are programs, the Saudis in the aftermath of 9/11, even though we'd been telling them for a long time, you guys got an internal problem, you got a problem, you got a problem. Well, 16 of 19 bombers is what it took for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to say, we got a problem. And they started to change. They started to repatriate some of the people who were out there fighting in the name of Al Qaeda, bayat to meaning loyalty, pledge to Osama bin Laden as opposed to the crown, and turning some of those people back into productive citizens that were not out there attacking people based on some misguided views or beliefs of Islam. So there are successes out there,
Integration.
countrywide, and the I'm gonna tell this. So the president of Colombia who won the Peace Prize,
Juan Manuel Santos.
Yes,
Yes.
I'm at a fundraiser in the Palisades, and the guest of honor that night, and it was about child trafficking and child soldiers. The guest of honor that night was the Nobel Peace Prize winning president of Colombia, and he's telling the story, and he says, and he knew a CIA guy was also invited, but he hadn't met me yet. He's like, I want the CIA guy here to know that I would never have won this Medal of Honor without the CIA. And then he talked about the program that was started under a very good friend of mine, Juan, who was the station chief at the time. So of course, me and the president took a picture and sent it to Juan that very night. But the CIA and the way we go about approaching conflicts is try to be as behind the scenes as you can possibly be, to get the parties to talk to one another. And he just was a president who had a forward-looking viewpoint of how to bring these rebels. And now the FMLN doesn't exist anymore.
That's where I'm from.
Yeah, I know.
It's a whole different country.
And Medellin, I understand, has transformed like immensely.
It's
like
art
in
now.
the last decade.
It's
And
art.
yes, and listen, out of badness, a lot of good things have arisen. Out of the Holocaust, out of the Shoah, the state of Israel rose. Out of our battle for independence from the Brits back in the late 18th century rose the United States. Out of time and time again, really, really bad things that have happened kind of bloom beautiful things in the future. And that's what I'm hoping. The political climate domestically and globally right now is a mess. It's a mess. Anybody's suggestion is not a mess is not being true and honest to themselves. But it's okay. It's always been a mess. It's always been controlled chaos. The entire political system of every nation it's all a deck of cards that's so easily knocked down if you stop believing, or if you stop having hope, or if you stop trusting, or all the things that I tell people all the time. Just trust. I don't trust them. I can't trust them as far as I can throw them. Like, stop worrying about throwing people. Just figure out what they're thinking about. and listen to them.
A lot of people are running around the world right now saying, is the world going to end? Is the world going to end? I know.
Yeah, it is going to end, but it's not going to end.
We're going to die.
The world has been, okay. When people bring up things like that, so name one person who's been right so far. The world has been about to end since the beginning of time.
Oh, boom.
Noah, flooding the earth, whatever happens. Humans, I don't think man can destroy this earth. I really don't. They can make it uninhabitable for the next million years, but guess what? It took us a couple million years to create what we have today. If you look at 10,000 years of history, 9,000 of it, or it took 9,000 years to go from being in caves to being an agrarian, kind of planet. And then another 1,000 years to hit the Industrial Revolution, and then 200 years from the Industrial Revolution to what is the digital age, which is growing exponentially now at a rate that I don't even know if mathematicians and physicists have figured out how quickly things are growing. And yet we still feel more disconnected from one another as a human species than we ever have. There's got to be a reason for that. And the reason is people are not looking into people's eyes anymore. People are not engaging anymore. People are not even acknowledging that other people around them exist and are experiencing things. And listen, I live on the Santa Monica Venice line. I volunteer in this one food kitchen, and I see these people are struggling and they're hurt and they're angry and they're mad. But when they come into the food kitchen and you say table for two and you sit them down and they got silverware and people serving them water and lemonade and coffee and food, 600 people, I think it would probably served over the 3 times that I've been. And one person acted out. One person. These people were so kind. They were more kind to us than we were to them. We're like, why are you being so nice? Like, no one ever really looks at us or talks to us. I talk to them all the time. And I say, if you see me on the street now, don't be afraid to talk to me. I'm not only going to talk to you when you're in here. And if I see you, Nancy, on the street, please don't not talk to me. I'll talk to you no matter where I am or who I'm with. These people aren't hearing that from a lot of, and it breaks my heart. If I could save all of them, I would. But just acknowledging people that they exist, and I've learned not to say good morning to anyone, because guess what? Most of them aren't having good mornings. When you say hello to someone, it startles them. Just try it. The next time you're walking down the street, just say hello to someone. No one says hello anymore.
Except for in Latin America. I always come back.
See, I love that. I love that.
Your stranger friend.
Well, that's
neighbor.
Just it. My kids they're not kids anymore, 34 and 32, grew up on the African continent. When an African child walks into a room, if there's 50 adults, that 3-year-old is going to walk around and shake the hands of all 48 people before they go to their parents. Right. That's it, because that's how they're raised. Walk around and greet everyone, say hi to everyone. My kids used to think that was the most exhausting thing. Papa, why do we have to do that? I'm like, because you're being kind. These people are in your home. You're inviting them. You wanting them to feel welcome. You want to, but that's what you and mommy do. I'm like, yes, and that's what you guys are going to learn how to do. Didn't always appreciate it at the time, but now they're like, I can walk in anywhere and be comfortable, shake a hand. And my daughter's like, that handshake thing is real. I'm like, yes, child. I'm not telling you these things because I'm like, it matters. She's like, I was in this business meeting and I shook the guy's hand and I could tell just from the way that I was shaking his hand, he was kind of surprised and didn't say anything, but I saw it. I'm like, yep. So now you know that it matters when people feel like they see me or okay. And the worst handshakes are, I don't like limp handshakes at culture.
Hugs.
Culture. Hugs are best. Hugs are best. So the Nexus conference, you were the only person who's like, you know what? You look like you're a good hugger. I'm like, I am indeed. Come on in here, grab some of this.
And not knew who you were.
I know. That's the beauty of it. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
People are desperately calling out, whether it's in words or whether it's in actions or sometimes in inactions, just to be recognized, just to be seen,
Right.
just to be heard, because there's so much noise out there. People are getting lost in the noise.
And that's so much of your work. That's how we started this whole conversation.
Yeah.
Need to be seen. And
Yes.
yeah.
100%. Yeah.
What themes do you see in the work that you do in the world of that? Like that's
It can be so much easier.
yeah.
Like I think everybody's pushing like a mountain of whatever the phrase is, but it could be easier. All these things can be easier. Movement building can be easier. Like corporate can be easier. Everything can be easier if we just like stop for a second and listen and try to understand the other side. And that's it. And like just really see what's happening in ourselves and show up the way people need to be seen. It's like it's pretty generic. It's like, and it can be applied to so many things. And like we're applying it now to marketing and movement building and things like that. But it's everything. So yeah.
Show up authentically. Show up as yourself. Show up with a hug.
Yes.
And not even that, just like
showing up sometimes is all that's
yeah, just show up and try to figure out who the other person is before just running forward. I think that we don't really stop and think about who's on the other side of the table or who's with us in the car or anything like that. It's just like we expect them to think and operate and behave the same way we have, but we have completely different life circumstances. Even my brother,
The Boy Scout.
I think for a minute, yeah, he was a Boy Scout for a minute. We grew up in the exact same house, the exact same parents, and have a wildly different life experiences. And what works for me doesn't work for him. What works for him doesn't work for me.
Wild.
And
it
so
really is.
It's wild. And I know you got the same with your kids.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yep.
So it's like.
But you come from the same parents.
Exactly, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because of how much else is out there. So no matter how well you think you know someone, you probably don't.
Do you have any advice for people that are, somebody here listening to that? Like, how do you approach that?
Well, we're building a technology to help us do that because it's hard. It's hard right now. It's hard, especially for like business leaders and movement leaders and people like that that aren't able to have one-to-one conversations, but they're trying to speak to many people at the same time. So we're building infrastructure to help with that from a larger scale, but just from the interpersonal, it's just slowing down. Something I probably need to do more with my girlfriend. But yeah, it's slowing down. It's being compassionate. It's understanding that there's other things in play, not taking things so personal. It's just like, you could go back to anything, like it's the themes that show up in every form of spirituality, every like foundational form of religion. Not some of the ways it's been taken in modern days, but it's all the same. It's like the same blueprint. Slow down, be nice, be compassionate, listen. Don't take it personally.
Yeah, and particularly for the youth right now. I mean, we're growing up with technology, which is just creating more. Well, I'm trying to keep a positive mindset, talk about perspective. I'm really trying to. It's happening for us, not to us. But I think that not just businesses. I think youth showing up is like. I think we're losing a little bit of that. Say hey to the stranger and.
Yeah. Well, where my hope is actually coming back from that is a lot. Like I've been talking to a lot of younger people that are using different technologies, and a lot of them are leaving. They're leaving the apps, they're leaving the platforms, they're wanting to like reduce the time on the phone because they're seeing like their friends die. They're seeing like a lot of damage happening. So I think we're starting to see like the first generation of people that are reversing it, and like IRL is now novelty. It's like meeting up in real life is like a wild, crazy adventure. The same way that the iPhone was so new and novel for us.
Right.
Now they grew up with that, so they're bored of it.
Right.
It's like, what else is out here?
Wow.
We grew up with what else is out here, and so that was something that caught our attention. So I think there is a reversal. I actually think like social media, all this is going to be a blip on the radar in the large scale of humanity. And that generations later, they're gonna be like, you guys are freaking wild for engaging in that thing. Like, what were you thinking? It's like we think about now, like people that were like smoking cigarettes on planes. It's like that seems wild to us, but that was so normalized back then.
Oh my God, it was horrible.
It was horrible. Like,
I mean, and why do planes still make ashtrays? The ones they're building today.
I don't think they make them still. I think they're that old.
I guess.
I think they repurpose sheets and things like that. Like that's all. That was my only guess. Because like if they're still making, like, it's a waste of money to make ashtrays on a plane. So my guess is that they've just been saving money by using old seats.
That's how we'll be talking about the Instagram app in 30 years. Why are they phones still making the Instagram?
the one thing, and adding to what Brandon was just saying, is the school systems across the nation that are now not allowing kids to bring phones into school is huge.
Yeah.
It is long overdue. One of the major issues with hiring people into the CIA is you don't have access to your personal devices once you log in the morning.
And one of the things they're seeing is that a lot of these kids don't want to be on social media, but they feel forced to because everybody else is.
Yes.
And so now that it's been pulled away from everybody, like a lot of people are like, they're like quietly going to the principal being like, thank you so much. Yeah. And kids are really enjoying it. Like I remember the early days of COVID where I was almost excited that everybody was done doing anything because it means I didn't have to. And I could like sit for a second. Right. And it was like, it just leveled the playing field. It's like, I was burned out. I didn't want to keep doing things. I didn't want to keep moving around. And it was this neutralizer. And I think the same thing's happening with phones where people don't actually want to be so engaged in this thing.
Right.
But because the world's moving so fast and everybody else is, they'll miss out if they don't.
The world's moving faster, right?
Information's moving faster.
Information's
for sure.
Faster. Yeah.
The world can't move faster. The world moves at the pace the world moves at.
But we're wrapped into the information.
Yes, exactly.
I watch a lot of nature shows, and I just saw this quote, and it said, "Funny how nature always moves at its own pace, and things work out fine. Nobody rushes nature to do anything. You can't rush nature. It's going to do."
Been rushing nature for a while.
And
we're trying like agriculture and quick farming and things like that, but it always fucks up.
Well, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying.
Development. The world is developing,
but it doesn't
faster
work out
and faster.
when we let nature pace at nature.
I love. Listen, I work with kids, so I always try to look at things through the eyes of our 4-year-olds or the youngest ones, all the way up to college age. And they look at the world differently. And I love the way they look at the world because it's non-judgmental. Everything's exciting to them. If you're ever around a small kid who sees a blade of grass for the first time, man, that blade of grass is like the MoMA. I mean, it is like the most amazing discovery that they've ever had. And just to see their faces and how they're processing whatever it is that they're processing is a beautiful thing. When was the last time you just laid on the ground and watched the clouds go by and talk about shapes? We used to do that growing up. Oh, that looks like an elephant. Oh, that looks like Miss Johnson in 6th grade, or whatever it happens to be. Just slow down. Everybody needs to just slow down. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And in the grand scheme of things, we are on the earth for that amount of time.
Quick.
Try and enjoy it as much as you can. Try to just look at what I had a boss who was assigned to our embassy in Paris. Right outside of her window where you wash dishes was the Eiffel Tower, literally like right there. I'm like, Eden, this is an amazing view. She's like, what are you talking about? You got the Eiffel Tower. She's like, oh yeah. When you see it every day, it's not amazing to you anymore. But even as humdrum or as dry as your world might be, there are wonders in it. Just take a chance to sit down and watch them. Watch the sunset. Watch the sunset is a miracle. Sunrise is a miracle. Birth is a miracle. There's all these miracles and amazing things happen. Death is a miracle. Death is a miracle. And death, to me, is the full realization of life. I think it's life at its finest. Now, you can die horribly, and people die horribly. I'm going to die the way Richard Pryor's father died. And if you don't know the story, I'm not going to tell it, but go back and look at his mid 70s. It's a funny bit. I'll tell y'all after the cameras are not rolling.
Laugh.
But
That's really
trust me, there's somebody who's going to hear this. They're going to laugh
agree.
immediately, like when I say, and it's deep too. That's again, I'm dating myself with the Richard Pryor references, but I don't know. I see more beauty in the world than ugliness, and I've been in the ugliness for 32 years. Terrorism is about as ugly a business as you can get. North Koreans are some of the most unreasonable people on the planet, and the Iranians have caused more damage around the world in the last 40 years than any other nation. And those are the three things that I specialize in. So,
Right.
but I see hope in the Iranians, the Persians, who have historically been reasonable people. I'm not talking about 79 forward. I'm talking about historically. North Koreans, I don't know if they've ever been reasonable, but terrorist groups are not the big threat that they were back 20 years ago. They still pose problems and threats to everyone, but I think we've invested more than enough billions and trillions of dollars of kind of paring down the worst of the worst, the Bin Ladens and the al-Baghdadis, who is the leader of ISIS. Anyway, there's going to be bad people. That's just it. Bad people are going to exist. You just don't allow them to bring you down to their level, whatever that is. Don't treat them better than they would treat you if given the opportunity. It's powerful. You can change people's minds and there have been people who decided to work for CIA and MI6 and other because they were treated nicely and they were expected to be waterboarded or beaten or forced to do something like, why are these guys so nice to me? What is going on? They're feeding me, they're clothing me, they're not doing anything. And like, maybe I'm on the wrong side of this message. All it takes is that one person to change his mind that could switch everything.
Mic drop.
Like that.
Yeah, well, and I'm getting so much from this conversation in some way. It's that slowing down,
Yes.
trust,
Yes.
hug, look,
Yes.
and then break that what we've been told over generations and about people.
And just recognizing that listening to someone doesn't mean you believe what they're saying.
Right.
Or that you are even, supportive of them being able to say it, but you can't stop people from having opinions about having ideas or about anti-Semitism, about DEI, about whatever it is that triggers that individual. And to my, shall I say, my less melatonin inclined people out there listening to my voice, if you're feeling like the world is coming down on you, recognize that most Black and brown people have felt that way every breath of their life. And maybe you should take a look at that and how you're feeling and recognize that, shit, I've only been feeling like this for, a year, 8 months. And these people have been living like that their whole lives. Maybe I need to look at this a little differently. All those people out there now saying, "Oh my God, the judicial system is messed up because of what's happening to Trump." Like, I'm pretty sure Black people have been telling y'all that for a couple hundred years, and now you want to believe it, but you don't want to believe it in the same way that you believe for Trump. So explain that to me. So making people articulate what their beliefs are, because they usually don't know what their beliefs are, and then in coaching, you have to ask 3 times before you can even start to get to the heart of whatever that person is not saying, the first 2 times they answer. But I got hope. I got hope for the elections. I got hope for what's happening in Ukraine, Russia. I have hope what's happening in Gaza and Israel. I have hope.
Love that.
Thank you, Darrell. How about you, Brandon? Do you have hope?
I do. I have hope. I have a lot of hope. I think everything we're going through is going to be a blip on the radar, and we can move forward.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you both so much for being here, and what a incredible conversation. And hopefully, we can instill some hope.
Thank you so
And
Yes,
much.
and
thank you.
yeah,
All
and
right.
thank you.